My name is Saint Ryan, and you might have noticed a thing about me. I like pressing R2. I like pressing heavy attack. I like it. I think it's good to press it. When I'm playing Elden Ring, I do PvP. And I'll come up and I'll press heavy attack. I like that. I don't know if I can maintain this energy for 14 minutes and 30 seconds, so I'll just go ahead and yeah, it's all true though. What I said is true. I do like to press heavy attack. I made a build similar to this one that you're looking at right here a long time ago, like 15 builds ago, and it used Death's Poker and the McKellen Knight Sword, and it was a quality build with a little bit of int and a little bit of faith. This build is a quality build with a little bit of faith, so it's a little more efficient, and it has to be because it's at a lower level. The other build was at like around meta level, somewhere in that neighborhood. This one is level 90. Level 90 is a cool place to invade. I think my weapons are at plus 17, maybe plus 18. But we started off as a vagabond, and we gave ourselves enough faith, 16, to use the McKellen Knight Sword. And now if you wanted to, you could just dedicate a slot to the Two Fingers Talisman. And I kind of do have an extra talisman slot that I'm not really sure what to do with on this build. So, like, that honestly would not be a bad play. But I'm using the McKellen Knight Sword, and whatever the hell the Dung Eater's sword is called. I think it's called, like, Simon Go-Getter or something like that. Sword of Milos. I was close. Both of these weapons have that cool uppercut on the heavy attack, and if you charge the attack, you know, it like drags the sword on the ground before it hits. It's pretty slick. So I am obviously wearing the Axe Talisman for those charge attack bonuses, as well as my Wondrous Physic is dedicated to charge attack increases. Godfrey Icon, unfortunately, will not do you any good here. But Flame Grant Me Strength will, and we've already got a little faith anyway, remember? Flame Grant Me Strength will increase your fire damage, as well as your physical damage. And so, that's pretty good. On the straight sword, on the McKellen Knight Sword version of this, we're doing a little bit of holy damage. Not a lot, obviously, but every little bit counts, you know? And it's better than nothing. And we're still talking about, like, you know, I didn't even get to use my Physic there, or use Flame Grant Me Strength. And we were doing 480 damage, something like that. Which is pretty good. And that's just coming off of the buff, the McKellen Knight Sword Holy buff. So, yeah. The main two things here are we're using the Axe Talisman, and we've got that Wondrous Physic that gives us an increase to charge attacks. And Flame Grant Me Strength giving us a little extra bonus damage as well. And that's about all you can use to buff heavy attacks, which is kind of a shame. And, you know, I get it, especially on the Sword of Milos, because it has hyper armor. You know, if you gave people too much stuff to buff charge attacks, it would be absolutely busted in PvE, right? So I get it, but I gotta be honest. It feels like, you know how the Dex builds, they get the Prosthesis Wearer's Heirloom, and it gives them +5 Dex, right? Okay, well, Strength builds get the Star Scourge Talisman, and that gives them +5 Strength, right? Okay, But then Dex builds also get Millicent's Prosthesis, which gives them +5 Dex, and it gives them that persistent attack buff, like the Rotted Wingsword insignia. So they get 5 Dex and that buff. And I gotta be honest, it definitely feels like strength builds deserve a +5 strength and increased charge attack talisman. You know, we all know how crazy you can get with that multi-hit buff, right? So I feel like, you know, it wouldn't be too bad to give strength builds, you know, that charge attack up bonus. It's a big risk to go for that attack anyway. You know, it's telegraphed. It's simple to dodge, right? But if it hits, you know, it deserves to do a good amount of damage. In this commentator's humble opinion. But, you know, maybe that's just me. I really like this build. It's fun to play. It's like the straight sword and the great sword. Those are like, I love those. I love those weapons. And there's something very satisfying about, like, this fight here with this Phantom, you know. It's very fun to try and outplay people that are also melee focused. You know, if they're melee focused, I'm melee focused. There's 2 of them, there's 1 of me. It's fun to try and, like, outplay them, you know? It takes a persistent amount of good plays to win this type of invasion with this type of build. Obviously, there's better stuff you could do if you were more worried about winning. But I'm less worried about that and more worried about having a fight that I think is fun with a character that I think is cool. And so, like, this character having the theme of, you know, the big uppercut heavy attacks, that's cool to me. And I like these weapons. They're a lot of fun. It's fun to try and hit somebody with this attack. You know, like, try it. And you'll notice, the first thing you'll notice is that it's not good and that it's hard to hit somebody with this attack. As a result of that, when you do manage to hit somebody with it, it feels great. It's very rewarding. And it's fun to try and figure out ways to hit people with it. Any of these weapons that have an attack that I think is cool, that is hard to hit, it sort of becomes like a challenge. Like, how do I hit somebody with this, right? And sometimes it's more difficult than other times. For everything else, there's Hell Room. Have you guys ever been in the Hell Room? I love Hell Room. This invasion right here is not won through any play, any skilled play or whatever. It's just won on being clever and gambling that guy would try and punish me for using a buff, which he did, of course. And once he tried to punish me for using a buff, this became academic. There's no getting out of the Hell Room alive. Of all the invasions I've done, and it has to be, you know, in the thousands, in the tens of thousands, probably. Of all the invasions I've done, I could probably count on both hands the number of times I have invaded somebody. They have aggroed that room and won. Made it out of that room alive. Like, that room is absurd. That's an absurd room. And, yeah. But, you know, that's the sort of thing. You'll notice, once we got him in that room, we were able to land that charged heavy attack. You know? It's hard to land the charged heavy attack against somebody who doesn't have anything else to worry about. But, you know, that's the fun. Like, you're talking about, like, perfect spacing, as well as a good read. You need all of that in order to land that thing. You have to be kind of savvy to what your opponent is using, how long it takes them to swing, because that's what you're banking on. You're banking on they whiff and swing again. And you might say, like, oh, well, if you whiff an attack, you probably shouldn't swing again. And maybe, but sometimes you whiff that first attack and your opponent walks into that second attack, right? So, like, I do it. There's a lot of stuff that's weird about Elden Ring. In Dark Souls 3, for example, people would not attack out of hit stun. You just didn't do it. But in Elden Ring, you'll see quote-unquote good players attacking out of hit stun. Which is silly if your opponent has a shield of any kind. But people do it. They can't help themselves. It's good. Damage is good, right? So my point is that, like, while it's not necessarily like the smart play, maybe it's not dumb, you know. And that's the whole that's how you do it. You punish a whiff, and you want to kind of get a read on your opponent. Do they seem like the type of person who would swing after a whiff? And if they swing after a whiff, is their weapon slow enough that you're going to be able to land that fully charged heavy attack? That was how we did it against the Colossal Sword. Against the Katana, we did it by recognizing the whiff incoming and charging up the attack there. So you charge up the attack on what will be that first whiff, and then you're banking that they're going to swing again. And so if that happens, you get to land the fully charged heavy attack. And in the case of a greatsword, it's fine if that's a trade, because one, you'll probably hyper armor through that katana, and two, you are definitely going to do more damage with a build that is designed to do that. Other talismans that I have on this build. Obviously, we have the Axe Talisman. We also have the Turtle Talisman that regenerates stamina faster, because that heavy attack costs a lot of stamina. We also are using the Prosthesis Wearer Talisman. While both of these weapons are quality weapons, meaning that they benefit from strength and dex equally, or allegedly equally, after looking at the stat sheet, I saw that I would get a slightly better return using the Dex Talisman. If you take into consideration two-handing weapons, you probably get a better return on the Strength Talisman, I would imagine. I didn't test that, so don't hold me to it. That's just my thought, my initial gut reaction, I guess. But the straight sword, obviously, I typically run that one-handed, and so that's what I go with. I'll post the build here at the end of the video so that you can take a look at it. I appreciate you hanging out and watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you next time. Until then, keep pressing R2. Later, y'all.